So we are finally at the final chapter in the book of Deuteronomy, which is the final book of the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses. So Moses has now given his final blessings to the people of Israel, blessed each of the individual tribes, and now we're moving on to the next phase. Deuteronomy 34:1. And Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, that is opposite Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land, from Gilead to Dan. So Moses was not allowed to enter into the promised land, but he negotiated, and the Lord offered to allow him to see the land beforehand. So now Moses is climbing to the top of this mountain. It's going to be his final journey. He has said his goodbyes, and he is climbing the mountain. Now at higher levels of altitude, it is possible to see further. And we see Moses here at the top of the mountain, gazing out at the land of Canaan, the land promised to his forefathers. And we see some of the names here, and they're quite interesting. But let's go a little bit further. Deuteronomy 34:2. And all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah, to the western Mediterranean Sea. 34:3. And the south, the Negeb, and the plain, that is, the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Zor. So the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and of course Deuteronomy, are all described to be written by the hand of Moses. And it's possible that they were written on multiple pieces of parchment and then compiled later. And that's why we can have sections like right here, where Moses is gazing out upon the land of Canaan, and the names of the places that are described that he is seeing are the different names of the tribes of Israel. But of course, at this juncture in time, they haven't made it into the land yet and conquered the land and whatnot. So this means one of a few things. Either this was prophetic in the locations, that this would be the location that would be Dan, this would be the location that would be Naphtali, and kind of going with that idea. Or perhaps the way that he described them was later translated to be more relevant to the more modern name of the land or territory down the road. Of course, it's probably not that big of a deal, but there had to have been some sort of method here for how this was done. So perhaps Moses is looking out at the land, and the Lord is explaining to him where he's looking, what's going to happen there later, and maybe the details aren't recorded, but there probably was some degree of communication there so that Moses had a deep and intimate knowledge of the land of Canaan and knew what was going to happen to a certain extent. Deuteronomy 34:4. And the Lord said to him, This is the land which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there. 34:5. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. So now that Moses has seen the land, the Lord is reminding him again that he will not be able to enter into the land. And it is at this point that Moses dies. It's presumable that a scribe wrote the rest of the book here that takes place after the death of Moses. And we got a couple more verses. Nothing too crazy is going to happen. but it's still pretty interesting. Deuteronomy 34:6. And he buried him in the valley of the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no man knows where his tomb is to this day. The death and body of Moses are quite interesting. We do read in the book of Jude, chapter 9, when it comes to Michael the archangel dealing with the devil in an argument over the body of Moses. And there's some interesting stuff going on there, but I kind of wonder if there was something special with the body of Moses. Moses, as we recall, was exposed to the holiness of the Lord, and it literally made him shine. So perhaps that's had some sort of lasting impact on him. He did live to a ridiculously old age, as we'll see here in a second. So you could see why people, especially people interested in the occult or superstitions, would want to find the body of Moses. Perhaps they wanted to prove something or do some sort of research or some sort of ritual, whatever it may be. So the body of Moses was hidden so that no one would ever be able to find it. Maybe he was buried 1,000 meters underground or something. It's hard to say. We haven't found him yet. Deuteronomy 34:7. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated. So Moses lived to 120 years old, which is a ridiculously long time to live. I think we have had some individuals in the modern era live that long, but only a few. But they weren't like the second part in this, where they had perfect eyesight and were in good age-wise health. Like Moses, he didn't look like he was 120 years old. He probably looked the same as he did when he was younger. That it was almost like he stopped aging, and he was perfectly healthy. Deuteronomy 34:8. And the Israelites wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended. So the people of Israel, they mourned for Moses for 30 days, which is a particularly long amount of time. He was their leader, and he has led them for a very long time. Anyone who was born in the time of the wilderness wandering would have known Moses their whole life. And the ones that were born before that would have known him since they were teenagers or relatively young. So he's been around forever, and he's been leading them forever. So to have him gone really upsets things. He was their leader. He was the one that negotiated with the Lord on their behalf to prevent their destruction. Maybe they never realized how close they were to destruction, but Moses did everything that he could to look after them. But the journey doesn't end here. Deuteronomy 34:9. And Joshua, son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands upon him. So the Israelites listened to him and did as the Lord commanded Moses. So before Moses climbs the mountain and his life ends, he lays his hands on Joshua and he transfers this role symbolically to him. Maybe there's some sort of energies or something like that as well, but it's probably more of a metaphorical transfer, in the same way that when we saw the offerings being made, that they would lay their hands on the sheep to transfer their sins to the sheep, rams, cows, whatever it is, before they would give them as offerings or use them as sacrifices, so that they would be able to fulfill that role. So Moses is transferring his role to Joshua so that he can continue the journey. And the people of Israel, they accepted this as well. They knew that Joshua would be able to lead them into the promised land. Deuteronomy 34:10. And there arose not a prophet since in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. There are a lot of things that happen in the Bible only one time. The Lord is not boring, and He is not like the movie industry. He always has new and exciting ways of accomplishing His will and what He desires to have done. So His relationship that He has here with Moses and the way that He saw him is unique, and we don't see that anywhere else in the Bible. And I think that's something that's pretty exciting about the Bible, are those scenarios where God does something in a unique and exciting way. Deuteronomy 34:11. None equal to him in all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land. I guess all the miracles that were performed in Egypt were pretty unique as well. So there's some more examples of the unique things that the Lord does. Deuteronomy 34:12. And in all the mighty power and all the great and terrible deeds which Moses wrought in the sight of all Israel. The unfortunate thing is that despite seeing all these wondrous and amazing miracles and the great things that were accomplished, it did not lead to any form of lasting faith in the people of Israel, that they ended up turning away anyway, for their heart was not in the right position. And this is the conclusion of the book of Deuteronomy and the end of the Pentateuch portion of the Old Testament.